Why is it hard to build an AI SaaS? As a, I would say, as a non full stack developer, because if you're a full stack developer from day one, then it's a no brainer. But if you're not, there are some constraints, or rather, I would say there are things that you need to master before you can fully take off. And I've listed these here so that it's comprehensive enough, so that you know what are the things that you need to master bit by bit. Because if you think about me building AI SaaS, although I started 3 years back, it took quite a bit of time to get to today's level of mastery because of multiple things. One is, you need to really nail authentication. Authentication means sign in, sign ups, user management, all these things. And I always encourage people to start with just social media logins, and also with just Google logins, because there's a lot of abuse with just email and email sign up or OTP sign up, etc. So that people create multiple emails or temporary emails and they abuse the system a lot. So just having Google logins solves that a lot. So you need to spend enough time on the authentication side to understand, what is user signups and logout, user management. It takes little bit of time. You need to spend time on that. Similarly, on database and storage, now you just have a website, but you need to store some data, show the data, and store some files and retrieve those files, etc. So again, part two, once you have the authentication problem solved, is how do you manage user data? That is, so you need to understand on a high level and play around with tools to get this. So databases, either SQL based databases like Superbase, or NoSQL based databases like MongoDB, etc. That's second part of the problem. Third part is payments. You have an app, people are signing up, running, you have metrics because you have the data stored, but how do you make money? Through payments. Now, Stripe is the biggest platform out there. I would encourage you to start with that. Stripe subscription. So either it is one-time subscriptions, or just like our Netflix or Disney Hotstar or any other subscription, month-on-month subscriptions, multiple plans, cancellations, refund, and fraud. Why I'm mentioning this is that everything is a small river in itself that you need to master, because subscriptions is not about just integrating Stripe. It is about understanding what are multiple payment plans, what are, how do you uh, handle cancellations, refund, or fraud, things like that. It does take a little bit of time to master each and individual pieces. And the fourth thing is API, because if you're building an AI SaaS, it is inevidently you need to work with APIs, because either it is text or images, you pass in something, you generate something and return that back. So again, just putting out an API is not the biggest deal, but how do you make the APIs, authenticated? That means not anyone on the internet who has that URL can call. When they call, you get the request information and see whether that user exists in your databases. If he or she is a validated user, that is one. Secondly, especially with AI SaaS and generative AI APIs, you also need to take care of rate limiting, because if people sign up and they just run 1,000 runs in the first 1 hour, maybe you get a $500 bill because you're using GPT-4. It's not what you should uh, give the user to do, right? So you need to have, let's say, hourly or daily rate limits, or however you put it, so that people don't abuse the system. Then the other thing is rate limit switching. Just like unlimited internet. If people say unlimited internet, for the first 20 GB you have this much Mbps, then after that it goes into this kbps plan where you can use infinitely. Similarly, think about whether your SaaS app needs such plan, where for the first uh, 50 runs in an hour, you run it on GPT-4, and for the rest of the things you run it on GPT 3.5, etc. So you need to think about all these How do you provide unlimited usage but switch the usage after a certain usage volume to a different model, cheaper model, etc. And also fallback, because APIs, uh, let's say if you integrated OpenAI and it's not working at the moment, can you fall back to Anthropic? Can you fall back to Google's API, generative AI API? Similarly, you need to have fallback system. And the last one is scalability and performance optimization, because once you hit scale and once there is minimum, you're past the stage where there is product market fit, where there are some users and paying users, etc. You also need to think about how to scale and optimize for performance. That is looking into each platform's database and storage limits as well as costs, if you need to migrate to a different provider, if you need to move your data to a different provider, things like that, etc.